Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and very good morning from Islamabad. Viewers, this is Vakar Korvi, and today I am going to discuss a very important visit which is coming up, and that is President Xi Jinping visit to Moscow to personally meet President Putin. Now this visit comes in the backdrop of three major factors. One, the Russia-Ukraine war is taken almost more than 1 year, and there is to be a review of that. Number two, recently on 10th March, China brokered a peace deal between Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Iran, paving a sea change, an era of sea change in the region, and already this is being discussed very widely. And third is the stress on Western financial system. You may have heard about stress on the banks, and most probably it is the cost of Russia-Ukraine war that is being borne by the West and United States across the Atlantic, which is causing a lot of stress on the international system. Now President Xi's visit is coming on 20th and will belong up to 22nd of March. And this is also significant because this is going to be President Xi Jinping's first visit after his third inauguration. So that makes it, I think, very, very important. I'll try to highlight what are the, let's say, objectives of this visit. So that is being discerned from Chinese media, and Global Times is one of the major newspapers which is very widely read across the globe, and it has millions of viewership. So I'll just cover important points that I picked up from their op-ed published, actually the editorial op-ed which was published today. Now it states that this visit is basically focusing at deepening strategic mutual trust, also looking at mutually beneficial cooperation. It will bring certainty to international community amid various risks. So I think that's hinting towards wars taking place in Ukraine as well as in other parts of the world. This is also being considered as a tip of peace, cooperation and friendship. It also raises I think few questions related to whether it can become a visit of peace, and that will also be one of the focus of my discussion. It also highlights multipolarity, democratization of international relations, and focuses on energy, infrastructure, technology, and human resource. It also states that it would facilitate flow of industrial and supply chains, and points out that in the past, as far as Russia and China were concerned, the policy was non-alliance, non-confrontation, non-targeting of a third party. Now it adds the fourth point, that both will not tolerate third-party intervention or coercion in their matters. So I think from that side it becomes very, very significant for both sides. China is looking at Indo-Pacific and Taiwan, and Russia probably looking at Ukraine. Now, covering the background, what has happened in the past 1 year especially, and in the recent past. As I pointed out, there were three major factors which definitely are going to be discussed in this visit, and which will also affect the international system. Now as far as Eastern Europe is concerned, there has been ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which I think most of us have followed, and it has itself produced a lot of hostility and bad blood between East and the West, especially between Russia, European Union and the United States. Recently we saw an effort by United States to send a Reaper drone closer to Crimea, which was neutralized by Russian pilots, and I think today they were awarded by President Putin. And they did it in a non-kinetic fashion by just spraying few liters of fuel, and this $32 million drone was made ineffective. Most probably the Americans wanted to draw a disproportionate response and affect the visit of President Xi to Moscow. That's my opinion basically. Now as far as the stress on international financial system is concerned, you may have read in the reports originating from the West, and especially those newspapers which focus on economy and finance, three banks are under tremendous stress. The Silicon Valley Bank, or the SVB, which was one of the very large and good performing bank in California. Then you have in Europe the Credit Suisse is also under a lot of stress, and I think they have asked for a bailout of 50 to 60 billion dollars. And then there is news of possible collapse of Signature Bank in the United States. Again, a multi-billion-dollar bank with a lot of good reputation. Now, why it is happening? I feel that Russia-Ukraine war has cost a lot as far as European Union and America is concerned. I was reading the military and financial aid to Ukraine, and only United States have pumped in more than $120 billion in past 2 years into the system. Most of it went for training as well as weapons and equipment. Now this money is flowing from somewhere. The US taxpayer or their financial institutions. Similarly, the European countries have pledged a lot of equipment, weapon equipment for Ukraine. Some of it has already landed up. So the war has a cost. They tried to actually put sanctions on Russia, especially on energy and food supplies, but partially failed because Russia has been able to sell its fuel and energy to countries like China, India, and even rest of the world. There is also talk of an alternate currency and de-dollarization, which is now a major talk in the financial capitals across the world. Another important aspect is the factor of India. I was just following a program by Karan Thapar. It's a prestigious program on the Wire magazine, and he was interviewing Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, again a brilliant ambassador who has worked in Middle East, and he's supposed to be an authority on West Asia. Now, Ambassador Talmiz feels that in both cases, especially the initiative that China took in normalizing the relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, India has been actually sidelined. And the reason he gave was that Indian diplomats and political leaders normally resort to rhetoric instead of doing hard work. He was mentioning that China has, I think, thousands of scholars who are qualified on West Asia and Middle East, and some of them even can write and speak Arabic. So this is the kind of investment China has done in last decade, which has actually helped them in bringing this deal closer to reality. As far as the larger Eurasia is concerned, I feel that this visit will cement the ties within SCO, although it is mostly focusing on bilateral issues, but it has impact on SCO because China and Russia are two leading players in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which in Duginist school of thought in Russia is considered to be the Eurasian Brotherhood, and we also supported that Eurasia being connected geographically and physically should minimize tensions and look at prospects of development, peace and prosperity. So this is going to strengthen the idea of Eurasian Brotherhood, and within that there are chances that China is able to motivate Russia as well as European Union and the larger West, including America, to ease tensions and resolve the Russia-Ukraine dispute or Ukrainian wars through diplomatic means. So this is going to be a bigger test. How far both sides agree? I think President Putin has a focus, and the premise was that one, Ukraine should not become part of any military alliance. It should remain neutral and can develop mutually on both East and West, and NATO should not be expanded by giving membership to Ukraine. So I think if these two objectives are achieved, President Putin may listen to Chinese advice for stability and diplomatic efforts. So this is going to be very, very significant. But there are choices with the West also. Are they going to keep following the line told by the neoliberal cabal, as I say, and keep destabilizing smaller nations mid-level nations and even poking countries like Russia, or they're going to read the writing on the wall, because I think in terms of trends, in terms of factors, a lot of things are now arrayed against the Western Bloc, and they may have to think about it. There's also division across the Atlantic in how the Americans are approaching this war and how Europe is seeing it. I think America has fewer allies left who literally want to go with them. There are a lot of voices within Germany. There is strong resistance from Hungary. Even within French political discourse, this war is being considered futile and an effort which can actually affect the European security. Because any miscalculation like the Reaper drone, imagine if there was a disproportionate response and the escalation took place, it could ultimately result into something like a nuclear exchange. So that will be devastating for Europe and rest of the world. So I think the West has to learn, maybe the hard way, that enough is enough, and they should try to I think give China space for resolving this issue through diplomatic means. But we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. As far as Pakistan is concerned, this visit definitely will have a salutary effect, because China and Russia both are friends. Pakistan is a member of SCO. Already Chinese initiative within the Middle East has paved way for easing Shia-Sunni tensions, sectarian tensions, and then giving space for peace, prosperity and development. So I think this visit will have a positive impact for Pakistan, but we'll definitely wait for the outcome and how the larger West as well as the members of SCO and the rest of the world views it. Thank you very much, and please do offer your comments so that we can improve the program.